Right, let's get the backpack ready. So we start with the Osprey Exos 55 Pro. It's a medium-sized backpack, comfortable to carry, got an air back so it's not too sweaty. I've got two of these. I've got this version, which is the newer one, weighs just under 1 kilo, and I've got the older version, which weighs just over 1 kilo. Both very comfortable to use. Adding that, just use a rain cover on that just for times when it really is very wet. It does stop the outside of the backpack getting wet, and I use dry bags inside anyway, but it's still handy to have this. Then we have the tent. This is the packed up Dan Durston X Mid 1 in its bag. It weighs just around 1 kilo. And then the sleeping mat that goes with the set as well. So about 600 kilograms, I think. It's quite comfortable. It's a long, wide one, so it's a bit heavier than some of the narrow ones, but it is comfortable, insulated, and you don't hit the ground with this one. And of course the Sea to Summit sleeping pillow as well, which doesn't weigh very much, and it does add a lot to sleeping comfort. Sleeping bag, this is the bulky one. I used this because it was warmer than the other sleeping bag I've got. This is the Rab Alpine 600. It's, I don't know, at least 20 years old probably, but a nice sleeping bag and very warm, very comfortable to use. The material is very nice to sleep in. Food pack. Each day of the food is roughly about 700 grams. So this is about 4 days food. It's got breakfast, lunch, dinner. There'll be 3 cooked meals a day, plus snacks in there as well. Water filter. I used a water filter attached to the Sawyer bag and a hose, so I could use it as an inline filter. Take water from the streams and filter it that way. Easy to use and quite light. Lighter and easier than a water bladder. Water crossing shoes. These are quite handy for on the campsite. Once you've finished walking for the day, taking your boots off and putting those on means that you can still get around walk around. You can still go up mountains and things like that. They're solid enough to use on stones, and they're just quite handy. They're about 350 grams, so they're not light, but they do keep your feet warm and protected. Then clothes. This is the spare clothes. So in the spare clothes I have a pair of socks, 1 pair of underpants, a pair of long johns, and a long sleeve shirt, zip top, sort of semi-fleecy top for sleeping in. This is toilet paper and toilet shovel, essentials of life. And this is the little wash kit, so a little washcloth, which is just a window cleaning cloth, which can work as a washcloth and also as a towel if you end up somewhere where it's got a shower. In my kit I've got things like mirrors to check for ticks, I've got tick removal tools, I've got insect repellent, ibuprofen, foot plasters, all the usual essentials. This is a lunch pack. This goes in the top of the bag. So there's a packet of noodles and a couple of snacks to keep me going during the day. And the extra clothing. So this is things like hats, gloves, neck gaiters, a warmer hat just to wear in addition, if things get cold when you're walking. I use a little blow-up cushion to sit on as well, just because it makes it a lot more comfortable. Especially if you're stopped for lunch, you can sit on that, keeps your bum dry, and it's actually quite comfortable to sit on. This is the waterproofs. There is a pair of zip-up rain trousers and a zip-up jacket in there. Weighs about 600 grams in total. And this is the solar panel, just to keep the battery pack topped up. This is the bag with the battery pack, a couple of cables. I usually carry a spare micro USB, so 2 micro USB cables and 2 USB-C cables, just in case one breaks, and one often does, as well as a little fold-up charger. So if I come across a power point, I can actually charge things and most places I go to you can eventually come across a PowerPoint. That's the silver blanket, just as an emergency blanket, mylar blanket to keep you warm in case of an emergency. Haribos, another emergency item, and the little packet of juice that just to flavour water when you're walking along, because that's quite a pleasant thing to do, especially when it's warm. It's quite a refreshing thing to have flavoured water. And then all the other essentials, so things like sunglasses, keeping a spare bit of toilet paper close by so that you don't have to hunt for it in the pack. The satellite communicator, which allows me to send a location, also send messages, and also raise a SOS alarm if required. So a very handy little bit of kit. Also have a compass and whistle for attracting attention if required. There's sunscreen there. There's another bit of toilet paper. There seems to be toilet paper everywhere. And little things for feet, such as little pads in case I need to build up the underneath the insoles just to support my feet a little bit. And I have had to use those a few times. And the insect repellent, and also lip balm. This is little bits of extra things. This is just some things for the poles, just to protect them, but mainly they're used for pitching the tent. So if I want to keep the upper the tent from the poles from sinking into the ground with the tent, then I can use those. And then all the other little bits and pieces that are not necessary but often useful. So things like patching for repairs, things like a spare guy rope, and guy rope adjusters for the tent, little bits of elastic, little bits of small Ziploc ties and things like that that are helpful. In addition, in that little grey packet there is the toothbrush and some boot wax, so that I can actually reproof the boots if required, because that helps to keep them a little bit drier when they get scuffed on a trail. And then the cook set. So the cook set made up of a packet of gas, obviously. That's got 2 noodle pots, one for coffee, one for making up the meal if required, and the pot itself and the stove, and they all go into that little red bag there. So that's pretty much the whole of the set. And you think it's not very much, but actually when you try and get it into the bag, it can be quite a squeeze sometimes. Luckily, things like the sleeping bag compact down very well, so actually all of that will get into the bag quite successfully. So I can carry 5 days food and my minimal amounts of clothing with not too much trouble in there.